Happy holidays. It's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, except for it's about 50 degrees and the sun's out, blue skies, hardly any clouds, southern Colorado. Other than that, it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. Happy holidays. I hope you're doing fantastic. I have a lot of news and headlines to share with you. Breaking news and headlines from extreme weather to an earthquake that just hit Taiwan and some unprecedented news geopolitically. But what do you expect in the year 2025? So much going on. And have you seen the price of gold and silver and platinum lately? Wow, doing pretty good. Now, I've been talking about gold and silver for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, actually closer to 8 years. And I'm good friends with Noble Gold Investments. Today's sponsor is Noble Gold Investments. And I wanted to let you know about a special that they're offering Leak Project listeners. Find out how to qualify. How would you like to get 10 ounces of free silver when you convert your 401 or IRA? Find out how. Give them a call. Their number, 1-877-646-5347. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. They're also giving out free wealth protection kits. And this is one of the silver coins that I was telling you about. You can get 10 of these. Season's greetings, 10 ounces of silver. Have you seen the price of silver? It's over $70 an ounce right now. And with the amount of data centers and artificial intelligence boom and electric vehicles, the silver that is needed, they need a lot more silver. And also, you may want to just look into this real quick. Type in India silver. There's a big change in India. Over 1.3 billion people in India. We'll find out the opportunities. Now, if you call up Noble Gold Investments, not only are they extremely knowledgeable, but they will help you. They don't talk about fluff. They'll give you the best information they can. They're very knowledgeable, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. I have friends and family that have converted their 401s through Noble Gold Investments. I have personally bought gold and silver and platinum through Noble Gold Investments. So check out the opportunities. Thank you for listening to the shameless plug. So let's get into this, though. Let's get into this. From mass diplomatic shakeups, migrant detention warehouses, nuclear missiles moving into Europe, carrier fleets near China, and new nationwide weather threats, the headlines show global systems are absolutely under strain. Now, the first article that I wanted to share with you, I'm just going to pull this up. Let's check it out. And it's from Reuters. I'll see if I can do a screen share here. Being a little bit slow on the computer side. So Taiwan shaken by a 6.1 magnitude quake. Luckily, no immediate reports of damage. The 6.1 hit the southeastern coastal county of Taitung on Wednesday. The island's weather administration said, although there's no immediate reports of damage, the quake shook buildings in the capital, Taipei. The quake had a depth of 11.9 kilometers, which is 7.39 miles, the administration said. In other news, now this is pretty much unprecedented, but like I said, what do you expect in the year 2025? Trump removes nearly 30 career diplomats from ambassadorial positions. AP News. What's this about? So the Trump administration is recalling nearly 30 career diplomats who had taken up their posts in the Biden administration. They had survived an initial purge in the early months of Trump's second term that targeted me, according to this article, political appointees. The Trump administration is recalling nearly 30 career diplomats from ambassadorial positions and other senior embassy posts as it moves to reshape the U.S. diplomatic posture abroad with personnel deemed fully supportive of President Donald Trump's America First priorities. The chiefs of mission in at least 29 countries were informed last week that their tenures would end in January, according to two State Department officials who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss internal personal moves. Interesting. And this is interesting as well. Trump team plans to renovate industrial warehouses so they can hold up to 80,000 migrants. The warehouses would serve as a second stop for detainees who are being deported. Let's take a look at this. The Trump administration is reportedly planning to acquire at least 7 large-scale warehouses across the U.S. and use them as holding facilities for detained migrants as it seeks to organize its chaotic deportation and detention immigration systems. According to a draft solicitation proposal obtained by the Washington Post, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is looking to acquire at least 7 large industrial warehouses that could hold 5,000 to 10,000 people after they are processed. The buildings would serve as a second stop for newly detained immigrants to prevent detainees from being moved around the U.S. to detention centers that have available space. That's interesting because just a couple of days ago, I had reported on how the U.S. is offering those that self-deport $3,000 and a plane ticket. It's like, dang, that's a lot of money. And there was a lot of jokes in the comment section after that. In other news, this is from 1945.com. The Navy deployed a fleet of nuclear aircraft carriers and F-35 fighters right into China's backyard. Let's see what this has to say. As tensions with China rise, the U.S. is stacking high and naval power in the Western Pacific. The USS Abraham Lincoln surged from San Diego to Guam, while forward-deployed USS George Washington remains based in Yokosuka, and ready to sortie. The message is straightforward: rapid response, sustained presence, and credible strike options across the first and second island chains. China is watching closely, expanding its surface fleet and refining A2AD tools designed to hold carriers at risk. For now, deterrence is the mission, and that matters today. 2 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers near China, what Washington is signaling. So in late November, the Nimitz-class carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, departed from San Diego, arrived in Guam just a couple of weeks later. This marks the second American supercarrier to be deployed to the region near China. Did you read the news or the report that I shared with you a couple of days ago about how China had just moved approximately 100 ICBMs into new missile silos? That comes shortly after the harsh words with Japan saying that they would support Taiwan if there was an invasion from the CCP. Also, the U.S. positions record number of F-35s in Puerto Rico amid intensifying Venezuela tensions. You can read about this Global Defense News or ArmyRecognition.com. The United States has deployed roughly 20 F-35 Lightning stealth fighters to Puerto Rico, the largest known fifth-generation fighter presence ever assembled on the island. The move strengthens U.S. air power close to Venezuela and signals a more forward, flexible posture in the Caribbean. Could you imagine if you had to take on 20 F-35s? Good luck with that. On December 21st, a photograph taken by Ricardo Arduengo, showing 20 F-35 Lightning II fighters lined up at Roosevelt Roads Naval Station, eastern Puerto Rico. Check this out. You can see it right down here. Crystallized a new phase in the U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean, only a few hundred kilometers from Venezuela. As reported in recent days, the former Cold War base closed in 2004 and officially reactivated 2025, now hosts a mixed detachment of U.S. Air Force F-35As, U.S. Marine Corps F-35B aircraft, marking the largest publicly known concentration of fifth-generation fighters ever deployed on Puerto Rican soil. This deployment comes against the backdrop of Operation Southern Spear and a broader U.S. naval and air presence assembled around Venezuela under the state's banner of counter-narcotics and sanctions enforcement, but widely interpreted as a coercive instrument in the Venezuelan crisis. The combination of advanced stealth fighters, a refurbished staging base, and growing maritime presence on Venezuelan oil exports gives this move regional significance well beyond a routine rotation of aircraft. Check that out. Buckle up, buttercups. And in other news, very unfortunate news, hot off the press, AP News, crews dig into Pennsylvania nursing home rubble to see if a gas leak caused the deadly blast. So 2 have been reported dead, multiple injured. Structural collapse is under investigation. They think it is a gas leak in Pennsylvania. Let's see if we can get a little bit more information on this. Construction crews worked to clear the collapsed walls and roof from a Pennsylvania nursing home Wednesday to help investigators find the cause of an explosion that killed a resident and employee and set off a dramatic evacuation amid failing debris and shooting flames. Tuesday's afternoon blast sent 20 others to hospitals, including one person in critical condition. The rest of the employees and 120 residents were accounted for after hours of searching the wreckage, said Police Chief Charles Winnick of Bristol Township. Thoughts and prayers for those that have to deal with this. That is very unfortunate. And this is very interesting. In other news, sinkholes in Turkey's agricultural heartland fuel farmers' concerns. Yeah, massive sinkholes. They're huge in farmland in Turkey. So hundreds of sinkholes have emerged in Turkey's central agricultural region due to dwindling rainfall and receding groundwaters, causing concern among farmers and environmental experts who see it as a worrying sign of climate change. Gaping sinkholes pockmark farmland producing maize, wheat, and sugar beet in the Karapinar in Konya province, with more than 10 packed into a field in places in mountainous areas. Vast ancient sinkholes previously filled with water have now mostly dried up. Hundreds of these things. Could you imagine? And when you fly over them, some of them look so circular, you're like, wait a second, is that natural? I mean, most likely it is. And I'm going to say, yes, it's natural, but you have to do a double take to look at some of these things because they just look like, look at this one. Look at this. Pretty wild, right? So you can read about that. Reuters. Now, I think that this is a very important article. BlackRock-backed ports deal at risk as Costco demands majority stake. Costco is a Chinese-owned company, not Costco. Costco. A BlackRock-backed bid to acquire global ports included key assets in the Panama Canal. Is at risk of collapsing due to demands from China's Costco, according to a Financial Times report. BlackRock and Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC, are considering walking away from the deal to purchase the ports from CK Hutchison if Costco continues to insist on obtaining a majority stake in the transaction. The Financial Times cited 3 unnamed people familiar with the negotiations. When approached by the publication, BlackRock declined to comment on the matter. CK Hutchison, Costco, MSC, and China's foreign ministry did not respond to requests for comment from the Financial Times. So that's a really big deal because just recently, the administration was, being very outspoken about how the Panama Canal, they're going to take the Panama Canal back. And then this deal is allegedly put in place and it looks like it's falling apart fastly. But just think about all the military technologies and ships and vessels and military personnel in the region of Caribbean and close to Venezuela, not too far from the Panama Canal. So, it's all about positioning. Now, we do have extreme weather warnings, and this is directly from the National Weather Service Weather Prediction Center. Let's take a look at this real quick. Wednesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Hello. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. There is a high risk of excessive rainfall over parts of Southern California on Wednesday. Moderate to heavy snow over the Northeast and Sierra Nevada mountains. We're not getting much snow out here in Southern Colorado, that's for sure. Rain, freezing rain, possible over the Pennsylvania and Great Lakes. A system moving off the Northeast coast. By Wednesday morning, we'll have a front lingering across the Southeast through Friday. Moisture streaming northward out of the Gulf will aid in developing rain over parts of the Ohio, Tennessee valleys through Wednesday afternoon. A wave of low pressure will develop over parts of the middle Mississippi Valley and move eastward into the Ohio Valley, central Appalachians by Thursday morning. The system will usher in rain over parts of the mid-Atlantic by Christmas morning. Along the northern edge of the precipitation shield, pockets of rain, freezing rain, will develop over parts of the Great Lakes and northern mid-Atlantic overnight, Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. In addition, as the low moves away from New England, moderate to heavy snow will develop over New England through Wednesday afternoon. Snow will cover over the Northeast on Christmas. Wednesday, moisture and upper level impulses from the Pacific will stream eastward over the Pacific Northwest. Northern California as a front moves inland over the West Coast. The system will produce rain and higher elevation snow over parts of the Pacific Northwest and the northern intermountain regions. Also, a broad plume of moisture will move over California, with rain moving into California and the Great Basin. A stream of moisture-laden air will produce heavy rain over California on Wednesday, with very heavy rain developing over parts of Southern California. Therefore, the WPC has issued a high-risk level 4 of excessive rainfall over Southern California through Thursday morning. Severe widespread flash flooding is expected. In addition, areas that normally do not expect flash flooding will flood. Furthermore, lives and property are in great danger. Additionally, a slight risk of excessive rainfall will develop over northern central California and into parts of southern Nevada on Wednesday. Heavy snow will develop over the Sierra Nevada mountains through Friday. Rain and snow at the highest elevations will develop over the Great Basin and the Southwest through Friday. In addition, the heavy rain will continue over California on Christmas. Therefore, the WPC has issued a moderate risk, level 3 of 4, of excessive rainfall over parts of Southern California from Thursday into Friday morning. Numerous flash flooding events are possible. In addition, many streams may flood, potentially affecting larger rivers. The flooding may include debris flows in or near recently burned areas. Will you just look at it, ladies and gentlemen, directly from the National Weather Service Weather Prediction Center. So be prepared, not scared. I had this pulled up, Visual Capitalist, charted countries stockpiling the most gold reserves since the year 2000. Russia and China at the top of the list. India comes in third, Turkey fourth, Poland fifth. Where's the U.S.? Well, the U.S. supposedly already has a large portion of the gold, but do they? What about Fort Knox? We still haven't seen inside Fort Knox. And they teased us with that carrot at the end of the stick several months ago, and then news just disappeared. But, I think a lot of this crazy weather is not only connected to the solar radiation and the sun and the magnetosphere weakening. Also, yes, humans have an effect on climate. Obviously, just look at places like New Delhi, where they're getting bombarded with so much smog from the environmental pollution. But there's also other factors involved. So I think that scientists should look at all the factors involved and not just talk about what the money funders want them to. But that's for a whole other podcast. Did you know that Russia plans to build a nuclear power plant on the moon by 2036? Not only does Russia want to, China wants to help, and India wants to be a part of that. And the U.S. wants to build a nuclear fission power plant on the moon by 2030. So they've been talking about it for a long time. But if you thought that was cool, check this out. Japan wants to build a ring around the moon. Call it the lunar ring. It's a project to build a massive solar power plant around the moon's equator using robots to construct a belt of solar panels that would beam clean energy back to Earth via microwaves, aiming to provide unlimited constant power by leveraging the moon's lack of atmosphere and continuous sunlight, with potential construction starting around 2035. That would be awesome. So it is a 12-mile wide, 6,800-mile long ring of solar panels encircling the moon's equator. Robots controlled from Earth would build the ring using lunar soil and imported materials. The electricity generated would be converted into microwaves or lasers and beamed to receiving stations on Earth. That's pretty cool. Good luck with that, Japan. May the force be with you. And speaking of building stuff in space and on the moon, why don't we build all these data centers in space? Why do we have to build these data centers in deserts, pull up groundwater from pristine groundwater from aquifers, and a lot of water that's used for farmland to keep these data centers cool on Earth? How about just launch them in space? If we absolutely have to have the technology, maybe we could put them in space. Well, there are companies talking about doing that. In the meantime, though, they're pillaging Earth's resources. So the data centers in space are a burgeoning concept, with companies like StarCloud, Axiom, Google, SpaceX exploring placing computing infrastructure in orbit to leverage abundant solar power, use radiative cooling, and overcome terrestrial energy space limitations for massive AI and data processing. We'll get on that. What's taking you so long? I had shared this article with you a few days ago on phys.org, 2.8 days to disaster. Why are we running out of time in low Earth orbit? Why we are running out of time? There's like 15,000 satellites in space. If two of those collide, that could have a domino effect that would leave parts of space unable unless you cleaned it up, you would not be able to orbit in those parts of space with satellites. It'd be too much debris. So that's less than 3 days. And there's articles you can go back and read all the way in 2014 describing how the magnetosphere is absolutely deteriorating. This is titled "Magnetosphere is Collapsing," Outside Magazine. Then you can read more of the modern articles, but there's so much data that is showing a weakened magnetosphere right now. Some estimates suggest up to 15% the past couple hundred years. That being more and more reliant on artificial intelligence technologies and satellites and electronics isn't necessarily the best idea for survival and longevity, in my opinion. That's for a whole other podcast. In this podcast, this is something you might want to know about. Speaking of war stacking, Poland installs anti-drone system on Belarus border amid rising security fears. Russia deploys S-500 missile defense systems on combat duty for the first time. These S-500 Prometheus air systems are wicked. And then we've got Russian nuclear-capable Oreshnik missiles now in Belarus. Remember in 2024, one of these was launched into Ukraine, and allegedly President Putin called President Trump to let him know that he was going to do it before he did it. Belarus authoritarian president said Thursday that Russia had deployed its latest nuclear-capable Oreshnik missile system to the country, a move that comes as talks to end the war in Ukraine have entered a crucial phase. President Alexander Lukashenko said the Oreshnik, an intermediate-range ballistic missile system, arrived in the country on Wednesday and is entering combat duty. He didn't say how many missiles have been deployed or give any other details. Doesn't that just make you feel all warm inside? Meanwhile, Finland says, oh yeah, we got 64 F-35s coming our way. Finland and Lockheed Martin celebrate debut of Finland's first F-35A. In a ceremony today at Lockheed Martin F-35 production facility, esteemed government and military leaders from the United States and Finland celebrated the rollout of the first F-35A Lightning II for the Finnish Air Force. The event marks a new generation of Finnish air power and strengthens strategic transatlantic relations. Finland is a NATO member and committed to act as a dependable defense provider in the northern flank. Yeah, they're getting how many of these things? Check this out. 64 F-35s. 64. That's insane. Deliveries begin early next year, fully operational by 2030. So I started looking around. I'm like, okay, so you got Finland up here. They're going to have 64 of these F-35s. You got Belarus establishing these anti-drone systems. I've heard of Estonia and Latvia doing the same thing. Ukraine's a battle zone right now. And so Poland's doing the anti-drones. Belarus is getting the S-500s and the ICBMs that could be nuclear capable from Russia. So we might see, France is saying be prepared to lose your children in war. That pissed off a lot of people. And then they've got those memos that were allegedly leaked saying that the hospitals needed to be prepared for 10 to 50,000 by March of next year. And then you may want to look something up, folks. One of the things that has me more concerned about, or just as concerned as this war, is an operation that was taking place it was an exercise that was taking place in the UK. It was an exercise, a pandemic exercise that was taking place in the UK, and it was very quiet. They were very quiet about that exercise. Look into that. Just, type in pandemic exercise UK, and you can learn more about it. But when I hear reports of these leaked memos saying that France needs to be, ready, their hospitals need to be ready, and then I read these exercises in the UK, I question, why is France being, telling their hospitals to be prepared? Is it something outside of a potential conflict or war with Russia? What's scarier? Well, wait until you read about the pandemic exercise and what they used, and then read up on some more modern news articles that have just came out. I'm going to leave it at that for now. We can talk more about that another time. But this right here is the NATO. Like if you want to see NATO members, so these are the NATO members down here. And then I was looking into Russia's security alliance. This is Russia's security alliance, and this is from the CFR.org, Council of Foreign Relations. And have you heard of CRINC, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea? This is a loose alliance, generally represented itself in diplomatic addresses and public statements as an anti-hegemony and anti-imperialist coalition with intentions to challenge what it deemed to be a Western-dominated global order. It's also referred to as the Axis of Autocracies, Quartet of Chaos, or the Deadly Quartet. These are the Oreshnik missiles that were just deployed to Belarus. They're called IRBMs, intermediate range ballistics, characterized with speeds exceeding Mach 10. That's insane. That's 7,600 plus miles an hour. According to the Ukrainian military, the Oreshnik has seen one combat use. That was the 21st of November of last year, striking the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. The missile carries a multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle, previously exclusively used by nuclear weapons, equipped with 6 warheads, each reportedly containing submunitions. These have been described as highly difficult to intercept through modern ballistic missile interceptors and are designed to counter this type of system. The Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh has identified the Oreshnik as a variant of the RS-26 Rubis IRBM. And then I looked into the S-500 missile systems that are also deployed now in Belarus. This is a Russian surface-to-air missile anti-ballistic missile system supplementing the S-400. The S-500 was developed by the Almaz Anti-Air Defense Concern. Russia claims the S-500 is capable of intercepting all types of modern hypersonic weapons, claiming to have successfully tested such capabilities. Russia is reportedly planning to deploy the S-500 along the planned S-550 missile system as part of its air defense network. Then if you do a comparison, this is a military comparison from Statista. And if you compare NATO to Russia, NATO has more military personnel, more active soldiers, more reserve forces, more paramilitary units, a much larger air force with more fighters and interceptors, more ground attack aircraft, more transport aircraft, more special aircraft, more tanker aircraft, more total helicopters. I mean, there's a huge difference in numbers there. Russia does have a very substantial nuclear fleet and nuclear capabilities, though. And then I looked into China, and China is the world's largest active military and rapidly growing naval power. NATO, led by the U.S., maintains a significant overall advantage in advanced technologies training and combined military spending, though China's manufacturing pace and focus on naval missile technologies challenge Western's dominance, especially in the Indo-Pacific. China excels in sheer numbers, troops and ships, cyber warfare, and AI, while NATO's strength lies in unmatched air power, nuclear deterrence, and integrated capabilities through internal divisions and focus on Europe are concerns, according to artificial intelligence brought to you by Google. Now, this is interesting. The Republic of China Army deploys newly delivered American Abrams tanks for city defense exercises. The Republic of China, Taiwan, the 584th Armored Brigade has deployed newly operationalized M1A2 Abram main battle tanks for battalion-level urban operational readiness, because they're not just waiting for the CCP to invade. They're actively practicing and exercising that type of invasion, and these tanks would definitely come in handy if there was a ground invasion from the CCP into Taiwan. In other news, pine beetle infestation in Colorado's Front Range forest prompts action from Governor Polis. Pine beetle infestations are quickly spreading across large areas of Colorado's ponderosas pine forests, evident from aerial surveys conducted by the U.S. Forest Service over the last year. And I'll tell you what, these pine beetles are no joke. They will thrash older growth trees. I mean, we've got this, there was a ton of activity several years ago that left many of the trees, 10,000 feet and higher, the pine trees just devastated. Now there's a lot of new growth, luckily. There's a lot of new growth, but the aftermath of these pine beetles can be wicked. And especially when you have winters that are not nearly as cold. We're having warmer winters here in Colorado, less ice, less snow, more rain, more warm weather. This is like, what's the word the perfect environment for these pine beetles. So perfect environment. We'll keep you posted on that. Be prepared, not scared. Let's talk about some good news now. Let's talk about some good news. This is really cool. This is from Good News Network. All solid batteries. Samsung's 600-mile range batteries. So Samsung is claiming to have a battery that charges in 9 minutes, with a 600-mile range. Now, if I could have a battery that would charge in 9 minutes with a 600-mile range, I might consider moving to electric. But with current technologies, there's no way in hell I would consider it. So in late October, Samsung announced that it was preparing to take its long-anticipated solid-state batteries to market with a trilateral agreement between itself, BMW, and American battery expert Solid Power. January last year, the industry outlets began to get some of the promises that all solid-state batteries developed by Samsung SDI would bring with an energy density of 500 watt-hours per kilogram. They're twice as dense as conventional lithium-ion batteries. Samsung claimed they were smaller, lighter, and safer, capable of driving 600 miles, charging within 9 minutes, where a typical lithium-ion battery pack in a modern EV charges from 10 to 80% in about 45 minutes. Yeah, that's ridiculous, and has a limit of around 300 miles of range. So bring on the all-solid battery, Samsung. What is taking you so long? Get on that. Let's go. In other good news, I find this is really cool. U.S. firm taps YouTuber to build world's largest blended wing prototype. With the engine, nacelles, wings, and landing gear now integrated, the aircraft is mechanically prepared for its first flight. Interesting engineering. The recipe for a passenger plane has long been simple: a metal tube with wings stuck to its sides. But now, a collaboration between a high-end YouTube hobbyist and a U.S.-based startup is trying to prove that the future of flight looks more like a giant carbon fiber manta ray. Rami RC, a master builder known for constructing remote-controlled jets, teamed up with the Nautilus to build a flying prototype of the Horizon. Good for you, man. That's so cool. I love reading happy stories like that, where a YouTuber gets an opportunity to do something as cool as this with such a powerful company like that. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Keep up the good work. And I'll talk about this in more detail on the next podcast. The interstellar comet 3I Atlas reveals weird wobbling jets in a rare sun-facing tell. This is space.com. 3I Atlas may have moved away from Earth as it makes its way out of the solar system, but this interstellar intruder continues to delight and surprise astronomers. A white light of the comet is surrounded by a blue glow against a black background. Hubble Space Telescope capturing interstellar comet 3I Atlas in November. Images of the coma of 3I Atlas. You can see all the credits right there. But this is what's interesting. New research reveals that the jet structures in the sun-facing antitail of this comet, estimated in some observations to stretch up to 1 million kilometers, were wobbling every 7 hours and 45 minutes as 3I Atlas approached the sun. Of course, comets are famous for their tails and halos, comprised of gas and dust that is blown further from the nucleus as radiation from the sun heats them. However, these tails generally face away from the sun and the influx of solar radiation. A rare antitail is a cometary tail that points towards the sun rather than away from it. So that's pretty cool. 3I Atlas. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go on a bike ride because there's still going to be some sunlight for a couple of hours, and the weather's going to turn to crap after this. So hit the bell for all notifications, will you, please? And hit the thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section. And if you'd also do me a favor and subscribe to us on Rumble. We are on Rumble. Merry Christmas, Black Dingo. I have Black Dingo in the comment section on Rumble. Merry Christmas. How the heck are you? Amazing people on YouTube and Rumble. I love that. Love to see such a great audience of incredible people. And yeah, pretty cool. Now there's this new feature on Rumble that allows you to raid people. So let's see if I can raid this guy. Target video can't be used for raid. Why not? Is he not live? Who's live? Who's live right now? Okay. See if we can send this person a Rumble raid. Raid? I don't know if that worked. Yeah, it looks like it's working right now. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, beautiful holidays. If you don't, if Christmas isn't your thing, I hope you have beautiful holidays, whatever holidays that that you appreciate. Spend time with your family and friends and loved ones, or if you like to spend time away from your family and friends, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Be the change you want to see.